When does the sandwich cook?
When does a sandwich cook? I don't know.
When it's bacon, lettuce, and tomato.
Hungry Squared, bringing you the best food talk anywhere.
Welcome to the Hungry Squared podcast, where the brain and belly meet. I'm Sharon from the Wasatch Cooking Guide.
And I'm Winter from theredparty.com. This week, Sharon, we've been on air for 1 year.
Happy anniversary!
Yay! So we're going to talk about celebration foods. Let's talk about it.
Hungry Squared.
Sharon, how has your week been?
It's been good.
Has it?
Yeah.
Did you do anything fun this week?
I did.
And what was it?
Ike made macaroni and cheese.
Oh.
This is his second attempt at homemade macaroni and cheese.
Okay.
Which is kind of funny because he is a chef.
It's kind of one of those things that you would make. I feel like it should be.
The thing, like the restaurants that he's cooked in have been more upscale. And so this just hasn't really been in his repertoire. I think he made it maybe in culinary school. But yeah, so this is his second attempt making it at home for the family. And it was actually really good.
So the first attempt was not great, is the assumption I'm making.
Well, it was good. It just, he didn't know how to thin out the sauce.
Oh, okay.
He was afraid to use too much milk and stuff like that because I kind of get lactose irritated on occasion. Yeah. I'll just put that out there. TMI. Anyway, so he didn't really know how to thin that out. But yesterday's was amazing. He adapted a recipe from Miss K from Duck Dynasty, which is an entertaining but weird show. So
this from the show Duck Dynasty. Wait,
so
where'd you get the recipe itself?
Well, they have a cookbook.
Oh, they do. Okay.
So Ike's oldest gave me that cookbook like a few years back.
Oh, that's
for
hilarious.
Christmas.
That's hilarious.
But they actually have some good Southern cooking recipes in there. This is by no way an endorsement of their show, just so you know.
You're just stating the fact that you have a cookbook.
From Miss K, yes. We're actually from the same part of Louisiana. Oh. So it's kind of funny. So he made macaroni and cheese with bacon and all of the leftover cheese that was in the refrigerator.
So what are we talking about?
There was a Mexican blend with jalapenos. There was some medium cheddar. I don't even remember. There was some white cheeses of some sort. Mm-hmm. White. I don't know. Like a Colby Jack. And
then
there was a pepper jack in there too.
That would be kind of yummy, having a little peppery.
Yeah, so there was a little bit of a kick, but it was really creamy and it's really delicious.
So he did thin it out, kind of boiled some milk.
I didn't watch him do it actually.
Oh, okay.
I have no idea.
Okay, so we'll post a link in the show notes for that cookbook.
Yeah.
So
you can check out Miss K's Duck Commander cookbook. I mean, strictly for the recipe.
Yes.
There are some really good recipes in there. Some that are like very basic, but some that if you want to get into Southern cooking, like authentic Southern cooking, then that would be a good resource.
Excellent.
How was your week?
That's so funny and random.
It is. How was your week?
It was good. And this week I ate, and you ate actually. We had a little get together this week.
Oh yeah, we did. We ate good food.
We did. And it was part of our Grill on the Green sweepstakes that we're doing with Aussie beef and lamb and the big green egg. And so we had a little get together and we grilled up some lamb pops on the big green egg.
Those are rack of lamb that have been sliced individually.
And those are really, I can't believe I love lamb pops. Like that's my favorite. I think that would be my favorite cut of meat actually.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh. I love lamb.
They were good.
They were so good. A little salt and pepper and garlic salt. We just did a quick rub of it and then toss those on it was quick. It was like 2 or 3 minutes on each side, I think.
Yeah, it was fast.
It was fast. But the thing that was really fun is we did a Facebook Live of making this red chimichurri sauce. And Sharon was a little skeptical because I was
totally skeptical because I can't handle that much heat.
Yeah. And I was like, I promise it'll be good. And she's like, oh, okay. I was like, okay. And I'm filming and she's making it with Lee and Ike.
Yeah. So check out the looks on my face. I'm pretty doubtful, I'm sure.
And it was just, it was really, I think it's really good. It has a good flavor. Like the green chimichurri sauce
had a great flavor.
Has a great flavor, but the red one was where it was at. I think has a lot more depth.
It had a lot of depth and a lot of kick, but not too much.
Yeah.
And so you could just kind of keep eating it.
Yeah. It was so good.
So good.
And I was really expecting to have more of it like after the party, but there wasn't very much left. Wah, wah.
Oh.
So.
Because we took some.
Yeah. You took some and then we just polished off whatever else was left. I mean,
You can just kind of eat it with a spoon.
It was
really yummy.
It was really good. It was really fresh. However, as I've talked to friends that have lived in Argentina, because this is Argentine sauce, you are supposed to leave it out and let all of the flavors mesh and meld. And so I think I'm going to try it again and just leave it out for a week and then try it.
Oh, wow.
Because that's what they did. They would never put it in the fridge or anything. It was just out. And those bright colors that you're used to, like the bright green or the kind of
darken, I imagine.
They darken
because it's oxidizing.
Yeah. And so I think all the flavors would just get better over time. That's my personal opinion. So I'm going to try it one more time, but let it do its thing out on the counter. I'll let you know how that goes.
Okay.
There is red wine vinegar. So for those people that are like, wait a second,
there's
you're putting
some acid. It's not being bacteria'd
or
too much.
botulism because there's garlic in this mixture as well. So I think the red wine vinegar kind of takes care of a lot of things. So yeah, that's what I ate. It was dang good. And it was kind of a fun party. Loved it.
And now for the main course.
Okay, let's get down to our topic at hand. It's our anniversary.
It's our anniversary. Okay, well, wait a second.
Happy anniversary, Winter.
Sharon, happy anniversary. We've been doing this for more than a year. I mean,
we've been on air for a year.
We've been on air for a year, but this has been a long time coming. So, which is super exciting. Congratulations.
Congratulations to you.
I know. Well, and we were just talking right before we got on air that one of the reasons why we started a podcast is so we had actually have to see each other. We never would see each other, I think.
It's true. We were good friends, but we never saw each other.
It's just because life gets busy and family and work. And so it's a good excuse. If you want to see your best friend more, you should start a podcast with them.
There you go.
Okay, well, so before we get into celebration foods,
should we talk about first anniversary gifts?
We should. Well, actually, can I make a correction?
Oh, okay.
Sharon is like, oh yeah, I guess so.
We have a correction to last week's episode.
Yes. So if you listened to our last episode, which was on meal replacements, and we covered quite a few things, but we got a correction about the Soylent portion. If you listen to that part, I would recommend going and listening to it because I think it's very interesting. But the correction is that currently they do have a prepared version where you don't have to put oil into like a powder, so it's not separated; it's all incorporated, and it's kind of a prepared drink nowadays. Does that make sense, Sharon?
Yeah, they've been doing that for
a couple of years now.
2 years.
Yeah. So I just want to make sure that was a correction. I should have brought that up, and they have different flavors too.
They do.
So I think there's a cocoa one. They have the plain original one.
A fruity.
It's like a nectar. It's called nectar. Cocoa. I think there's a coffee one. And then I think
the original, and then you can kind of make your own flavors if you put some fruits or veggies into it.
So they have also on Amazon. Looking around, they have a couple of new flavors that are coming out. A chai flavor.
Oh yeah.
And I think of vanilla is what I saw. So curious to see what everybody thought. But I just want to shout out to all the people that commented.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, we like to hear what we like learning more about what people do.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for those comments.
It's good to hear your experiences.
Yes, it is. So, okay. Sorry about that interjection. Let's get back to celebration food, Sharon. First year anniversary. There's a list.
It's paper.
Oh, is it?
The modern, the traditional gift is paper.
So what would you do?
The modern gift is clocks.
Oh, so what is a paper gift? Would you give like a nice thing of stationery or something?
Stationery, cards or something like that.
Okay.
But what also counts as paper? Cookbooks.
Yes.
And we know how much you guys love getting cookbooks because that's the primary thing we give away on this show.
We love cookbooks.
Yeah.
People love to cook who listen to the show. Good job, you guys.
Yeah, so we've got a few cookbooks to give away. We've got one from Carla Hall, celebrity chef Carla Hall from The Chew.
She is so nice, you guys.
She is really great.
I've met her a couple times at a couple conferences, and she's just really nice.
Yeah. She gave our friend Monique a hair hug once.
Yeah, it was cute.
It was really cute.
Yeah, Monique Malcolm from Pimp Your Brilliance podcast. You got to check out that podcast if you get a chance. So, but yeah, they gave each other a hair hug. It was awesome.
Yeah. So then we've got one that's called Sweet Celebrations.
Yep. And if you guys are all about cake and sweets, Elise Strahan, I don't think I said her last name correctly, Strahan, but she is
the ultimate party planner.
Yeah. It's really a pretty cookbook and full of color because we're celebrating our first anniversary. We thought this would be perfect. And then the last one is Southern Vegetables.
By Natalie Dupree, who is like the Julia Child of Southern cooking.
It looks so pretty too. And vegetables sometimes are hard to find good recipes for.
Yeah, it's hard to find because everybody focuses on desserts or a main, or even appetizers are super popular to focus on. But if you are learning to cook or wanting to incorporate more vegetables into your diet or into your family's meals, this is a really good one.
Yes, exactly.
It's got a whole bunch of different ideas for some vegetables that you wouldn't really think of.
Right.
So
that one's fun. So, I was going to mention Elise Strahan. I can't say her name. I'm sorry, you guys. But she has a YouTube channel called My Cupcake Addiction. I'm pretty sure you've seen it. Like she makes the craziest, coolest creations that are usually cakes.
Nice.
Yeah. So
these are good books.
These are fun books. And so we're giving them away as part of our first year podcasting anniversary.
Yeah.
So you can either comment on Facebook,
Instagram,
or you can just actually comment on our blog post for this week as well. And we'll have this going for a week. Just comment and tell us what your favorite episode has been. How about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Comment on your favorite episode on one of 3 places. Again, that would be our Facebook page, our blog/show notes at hungrysquared.com. Or our Instagram at Hungry Squared.
And I'll have those in a lot of different places. So just take a look out for those, and then we'll draw a winner in about a week, and we'll send those out to our winners because we just want to share our cookbooking love.
Yeah.
Sharon, what do you usually do to celebrate such things as anniversaries and fun holidays and such?
So my family, we eat food. We celebrate with food, as many other of you do. Cake. We eat cake and pie. Ice cream is the big one. Cookies. But also things like prime rib.
So kind of those nicer.
Ham, like a honey baked ham type thing. Barbecue. We eat a lot of barbecue. Kind of like the summer foods because we're from the South, I guess, and we eat a lot of barbecue.
And I was going to say the barbecue takes a little bit more time, so it seems like a special occasion. Like if you're going to smoke something.
Well, I mean, we don't usually smoke.
Oh, so it's more just grilling.
Yeah, just grilling. Lots of barbecue sauce. Or we'll actually buy barbecue from a place that is, the authentic smoked stuff. But now that we have the big green egg, we're smoking our own. So that's really exciting.
Sweet.
So growing up, my family had some parties, to celebrate milestones and birthdays. We always had a New Year's Eve party.
Oh, you did?
As a family. So we would eat black-eyed peas first thing. Like some people
going into the new year?
Yeah. So some people we would usually toast with like some sparkling cider.
Right.
And then everybody would have at least a bite.
Really?
Or a serving of black-eyed peas.
Now, why black-eyed peas? That's a pretty Southern
They're
thing.
lucky.
They are?
Yeah. It's supposed to give you luck and prosperity in the new year.
Why?
So
I don't know. Tell me the traditions because I'm like, that doesn't.
So there's a little bit of history behind the black-eyed peas. Some people have attributed it to a Jewish tradition.
Okay.
Some people have attributed it to a Southern tradition. The Southern traditions, there's 2 popular explanations for the black-eyed peas being lucky. One of them is Sherman's March of the Union Army.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So they pillaged a lot of the Confederate food supplies at that time. And so a lot of the stories say that the black-eyed peas and salted pork were said to have been left untouched because the Union Army considered them unfit for human consumption. So they pillaged all of their food supplies other than that. So the Confederate Southerners considered themselves lucky to be left with some supplies to get them through the winter.
Oh.
And so black eyed peas became lucky after that.
Oh.
But my favorite one is that the black eyed peas were a symbol of emancipation for African Americans who had been previously enslaved and who after the Civil War were officially freed on New Year's Day.
Oh.
But really they celebrating emancipation is Juneteenth. So,
so
everybody, where we lived, a lot of people got the day off on Juneteenth and stuff. It was like an actual holiday. So pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. So they don't know exactly.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things. So it's kind of whatever you ascribe it to. But yeah, but our family just believes that they're really lucky. Yeah, but the ultimate celebration food, I think, for me at least. So, I mean, going out to dinner is kind of a big deal and stuff to celebrate things, like going out to your favorite restaurant, eating some of your favorite foods. But just the ultimate for me is charcuterie.
Really?
Yeah, a charcuterie board.
Really?
So the cured meats and cheeses and nuts and goodies like that.
So why? Don't get me wrong. I love a good charcuterie board.
It's kind of an odd thing, I think. But I don't know. In recent years, I'd say in maybe like the last 10 to 15 years, I would say, charcuterie boards really have meant celebration for me. Getting together with my tribe, which would be like my family, my really close friends, loved ones. Whenever we've celebrated a milestone and we're getting together, that seems like easy party food.
Oh, yeah. It's finger foods.
Right. And some of the best moments that I've shared with people of my tribe have been over a charcuterie board. We've celebrated St. Patrick's Day that way when we've been out on the town.
Yep.
We've celebrated graduations. We've celebrated just being together. We've kind of mourned over charcuterie boards as well when things haven't exactly gone our way.
Yeah.
So yeah, that has been, when Ike and I kind of celebrate little things and stuff like that, that's what we do.
You get some nice cheeses, some nice meats.
So we kind of had like a snack dinner, as it were.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were getting these cured meats. Like we had an episode where we interviewed Cristiano Creminelli.
Yep. Salami fermentation. That was a great episode.
So we get some Creminelli, usually like a few kinds and different cheeses. And we don't really kind of worry too much about the pairings. And it's an easy potluck thing to do as well.
It is.
So if you're getting together a huge party or a smaller intimate party and you don't really want to shell out to feed everybody, it's an easy thing to assign out.
It is.
Hey, you bring a chunk of cheese, you bring some salami, you bring some olives, you bring some crackers, and you just kind of go from there.
How do you think we've lasted this long with our annual cheese party?
Exactly. Exactly.
It works out perfectly, actually.
Winter has an annual cheese party every year. This is
I think this year will be the 14th.
I think it's more than that.
I don't know. I think we missed.
I thought you were at 15 or 16.
It may be 15. I have to look back because I've forgotten. But it's like one of the best ways to celebrate the summer. It's just, we have a cheese party with Italian sodas. It's just a way to get together and say hi to all of our friends. But we and I will provide all of the, we usually do fruit, like some fruits and the crackers and the bread and the Italian sodas.
Pairings mostly.
Yeah. And then everybody is assigned to bring a hunk of cheese, one that they've never tried or maybe starts with the first letter of their first name. And then it becomes really quite a fun party, I think.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah. But that's a really good, I mean, it really is when you're thinking about it.
It's a good way to mix and mingle because you're sharing food.
Yeah.
But it's an easy way to share food because most things are already chunked out or they're easy to kind of spread and things like that. And so you're not really getting into each other's business too much.
And also, I think it's a great way to, if you are getting together, it's easy. It facilitates a lot of conversation because you're just hanging out at the charcuterie board.
Yeah.
I'm going to try this little combination and then you sit and talk and super fun.
We've had good times just sitting on the floor of a person's living room or around their kitchen table. with a charcuterie board. I've just loved it. So some of the history of charcuterie, it goes back a long way.
Oh, okay. I'm sure it would actually.
I think we discussed this before, but I'll just refresh everybody. So the word charcuterie is derived from the French words for flesh, the char, and cooked, cute. But the term charcuterie came to designate the shops in 15th century France.
Oh.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
We're talking about 1400s here.
They were like butcher shops?
They sold products of the pig, including, I think it's called offal, O-F-F-A-L. I don't know how to pronounce that word, sorry. But Romans, who had made standards of raising, killing, and cooking of pork, they regulated its production and were likely to have first to turn pork butchery into a trade. But it was the French charcuterie, right, who brought the greatest ingenuity to the pig preparation. In the 15th century, the charcutiers, I think is how you pronounce it, were not allowed to sell uncooked pork. So it had to be cooked. They could sell the uncooked fat, so it could be rendered into lard and be used like for home cooking. But the pork itself had to be cooked. And they created all manner of cooked, and which would include the salted and dried.
Okay, I was going to ask.
Dishes that were later sold as like pâtés, sausages, bacon, trotters, head cheese, and all that kind of stuff. And then in the late 15th century, the time when the first guilds were formed, these charcutiers were highly esteemed. They were tradesmen in charge of pork butchering, and they played a critical role in maintaining the food supply in their towns. And the charcuterie just meant being able to feed the entire town, people not starving, basically. It meant that they cooked and preserved meat for basically the whole community.
And throughout cold times or lean times, that type of thing. Interesting.
And long before the Renaissance and through the Industrial Age, societies depended on these preservation techniques to be taught them for home cooks and also for the towns to have these charcutiers. So by the time of the French Revolution, there were almost 100 different ones in the French capital.
Oh,
yeah. It was a really esteemed and booming business.
Yeah.
But the salting and smoking and cooking of meat goes way back to Neanderthal man type of a thing.
As long as people have been trying to preserve meat.
Right. Well, and to preserve it from like other predators, other animals and bugs and things like that. They would put it over a fire and then discover, oh, it cooks and it's so tasty. So a lot of people get worried about when they're making their own charcuterie board, their own like cheese and meat boards, about wine pairings. But I would say go for what you like. You can never have too much variety on your cheese board, your charcuterie board. Go for different stuff that maybe you wouldn't normally go for.
Yeah, that's one thing I've noticed is that because the thing is, everybody knows the basic, there's a brie and there's a whatever. But if you can go with something that nobody's tried before, that is fun.
Or something that you kind of usually hesitate around. I know a lot of people don't really love goat cheese.
Yes.
Try it anyways. Drizzle some honey on it. It's really good. Include some nuts, some fruit, and make sure that everything's it's able to be handheld. Like grapes are individual that you can just kind of eat, stuff like that. Or maybe like some dried apricots.
I love dried fruit with charcuterie. I don't know
great.
Like dried apricots with some meat. It's just yummy.
Yeah. So a lot of people worry though about the wine pairings because wine and cheese and it's just so snooty. But it kind of doesn't really matter. Like if you like white wines, go for your white wines. If you like red, go for red. I mean, some websites, some chefs will kind of discourage that, well, it needs to be dry or it needs to be very fruity, it needs to be light. It can't be something that has too much strong or bold flavor. Just go for what you like. It doesn't matter. You're going to have a good time. But talking about wine pairings, wine is another celebration food for me, I think, with certain groups of friends that I've had over the years. But I wanted to talk for a second about the sideways effect.
What?
So if you remember, there was a movie called Sideways.
No, I don't remember that
Paul
movie.
Giamatti.
Oh.
Thomas Hayden Church, Sandra Oh, Virginia Madsen. And it came out the end of 2004. It won an Academy Award in 2005 for Best Adapted Screenplay.
Okay.
So Sideways was about these two guys. This guy is getting married and he wants to kind of have a bachelor party trip with his best friend.
Okay.
So they go out to Napa. His best friend is a wine aficionado, wine snob, and is just like, oh yeah, we should go to Napa. And his friend is more of a party guy. And so he, hilarity and adventures ensue.
Okay.
But Paul Giamatti's character, he waxes really poetic when he talks about the wine with the people that he meets and stuff. And this one wine becomes almost a character in the movie. And so he describes the grape as being thin-skinned and temperamental and in need of constant care and attention.
Oh my goodness.
But the way that he talks about the grape, I remember sitting in the theater with my boyfriend at the time. This was like 12 years ago. And thinking, wow, that's love. The way that this guy is describing grapes, like it was like he was describing his one true love.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, the look on his face and the tenderness that he talked about it, it was crazy.
Okay.
And so this wine from these grapes became another character in the movie. And it was Pinot Noir. And so this Pinot Noir type of wine became super popular afterward. And when you would talk to people who drink wine, it was just, oh, what's your favorite? Oh, I love Pinot Noir. And, everybody, that was like their favorite wine all of a sudden, where maybe they hadn't really drank it very much previously. Something funny to note is that the Pinot Noir production in California was increased roughly 170%
because of this
since
movie?
that movie was released.
No way.
Yes.
No way.
It's hilarious.
Really?
Yeah. And it's because people saw the passion of the Pinot Noir, in this movie for the Pinot Noir. NPR did a story about this earlier this month, actually.
Hilarious.
So if this sounds very familiar, well, that's why. But I just, the charcuterie and the wine, it just goes together. But you do you. Don't be afraid to go out of the box. I mean, still 12 years later, it's still enjoying a lot of popularity. And there is a famous line from this movie where the guys, the groom-to-be wants to go and party and stuff like that. And they meet some ladies and it's just kind of like, what are you doing? You're getting married.
Yeah.
The whole movie, you're just like, oh my gosh, what is this guy doing? But he convinces his best friend, who's this wine guy, oh, hey, we're going to go out to eat with them. And he's like, we don't even know them. And he's like, it doesn't matter. And this guy hates this certain type of wine because his ex-wife loves it.
Oh.
And so all of a sudden, like right when they're at the door, he's like, no, if anyone orders Merlot, I'm leaving. He's like, I'm not drinking any effing Merlot. Like he totally swears. And he has this freak out and he's just like, I'm not drinking Merlot. And so because he was so passionate and poetic about the Pinot Noir, and he was so passionate and vehement the other way on the Merlot sales actually went down.
No, it didn't.
Yes, it did.
No, it didn't.
Sure did.
Oh my goodness.
They're starting to come back up. Starting to come back up. This is how we're so influenced by media around us. Like, I mean, I've known personally of one wine sommelier personally, but most people I know don't know a lot about wine.
Yeah, I would say generally they're like,
even though they like to drink it or whatever, like they don't really know a lot about it. So this is an prime example of how we're influenced on the things we consume. Yeah. Merlot sales plummeted.
That is crazy. And that is awesome at the same time.
It was a measurable decline from January 2005. So the film was released at the end of 2004. So it was a measurable decline, 2%. But at the same time, it was a 2% decline. But the Pinot Noir production skyrocketed 170% in California. And so the Pinot sales increased 16% during that same time.
16%.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And now it's the second most planted varietal in Sonoma County, which is where Napa is.
Oh my goodness.
Crazy.
That is crazy. It if you think about it, it's a little like advertising, right?
Mm-hmm.
This kind of like even what we do as podcasters, if we talk about stuff and it kind of puts things on like, oh, I didn't know about that. So people check it out and they start looking at things more. I mean, it's interesting how we are easily influenced.
Mm-hmm. It's nuts. But anyway, my point is that you can make a really inexpensive charcuterie board.
Yeah, you can.
You can go to discount markets like Trader Joe's.
Mm-hmm.
If you want some really good tips, the website Shutterbean, Tracy Benjamin, has that website. She has a great how to make an epic cheese board with Trader Joe's items.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was.
I think I saw a picture about it and it looks beautiful.
It is beautiful. Basically, you just need a really good tray, a nice little serving platter, a little plate, whatever you want to do. And you can either buy all of that stuff yourself and do it at a discount place like Trader Joe's, or you can assign that out to your friends.
I think you should assign it out because everybody feels like because everybody wants, if there's a party, they're going to ask, what should I bring?
Right.
You can assign that out. And people are happy to do it.
Basically, it's $10 or under what they're bringing.
And then
so
it just becomes
really easy.
It becomes a great little party and you're just sitting around the table and it's
a great way to just, visit and socialize,
enjoy
and be together.
Yeah. Yay. That's cool.
Yeah, and don't forget the accoutrements, I guess. Like mustards.
Yes.
Olives, stuff like that. One of the best charcuterie boards I ever had was at a place in Salt Lake City called Undercurrent.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
It's next to Current Seafood.
Yep.
And Undercurrent is like their bar. And we had a cheese board there, and they had the best mustard I've ever had in my life.
Really? Was it like a whole grain mustard?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was so delicious.
Oh, that is awesome.
It was crunchy, but it had the perfect flavor, perfect balance of like spice and tang and sweet. It was delicious.
Oh, that's good. Because I think some mustards can be a little too overwhelming. They're a little too bitey.
You just do it in a small little thing for everybody to share.
Yeah.
You don't need much.
No. Well, that is, yes, charcuterie. That is.
What's your favorite food? You like cake?
I do like cake.
For celebrating.
Because if you think about it, when you have a birthday party, the birthday cake, like, come have cake.
Mm-hmm.
You celebrate a wedding, you have cake.
You have cake.
I mean, there's cakes everywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of a symbol of being able to celebrate the person that you're making it for.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Because the ingredients were always not available. You know, sugar sometimes was rationed for many reasons. And we can get into that
back in the day. Yeah.
Back in the day, or having eggs or butter around.
Or all of the white ingredients like flour and sugar to make that frosting.
Yes, it was not always around. So it has always been a symbol of celebration. And so I want to talk about cake today. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to say that at some point in time, we may have to go a little bit more in depth because there's so much about cakes. Like you have no idea. Like we might have to do a wedding one specifically.
Yeah, we might.
Because as we get closer to when you get married, then that might have to be a topic of conversation because it's so interesting. I'm not
still on the fence about a wedding cake.
I think there's a lot of cool stuff in there. I'm just saying you can do something fun. Really quickly before we get started, what's your favorite cake?
I don't know.
Really?
I really like lemon cakes. I love a really good strawberry cake, strawberry buttermilk cake.
Oh, yeah.
Chocolate cake. Probably chocolate cake.
Yeah, chocolate.
Oh, you know what? The flourless chocolate cakes.
Yes.
They're short,
super rich,
but they're really dense. Yeah. I could eat that for days. I know people can usually only take a bite. I could eat that
Sharon
all the time.
She has a special ability to eat super rich things and not be fazed by them.
Nope.
Bring it on.
Yeah. What's your favorite cake?
I think it's chocolate cake, actually. Just a regular chocolate cake with some chocolate frosting and some vanilla ice cream. Just going to throw that in there.
Balance it out.
Yeah. When I was a kid, we would have these, I don't know. I just remember my mom she would have like the Wilton, those Wilton magazines that showed you how to make the most elaborate, crazy cake creations. And whenever we had a birthday, it was always, you would have a cake, and it was always a big deal to gather around the cake, light the candles,
Would she do creative cakes like the ones that were in the magazine?
Yes.
Oh.
Like she would buy the molds, because they have the specific molds.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was kind of like, what is it called? Paint by numbers.
Oh, okay.
Do you know what I'm saying?
With the frosting.
Yeah. So it was like painting by numbers, and she had all the tips, and she had all of the, I don't know. I just remember certain things where there was like a Scooby-Doo one that I remember specifically where we had the pan for it, I think. And we made it at one point in time. So cakes have always been a part of our family gatherings and celebrations. And I wanted to talk a little bit about cake because cake has been a symbol of celebration for many, many centuries. So,
okay, really quick, what flavor was that Scooby-Doo cake?
I don't even remember. I just remember the pan and you would do the star tip and just color it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
I never did one of those, like, I think my mom probably did this at one point in time, but do you remember the cakes that were really, they looked like a dress skirt?
Yes, for like the Barbie.
Yeah. I think maybe somebody got that made for them, but I don't remember. I just remember seeing it in the catalog and thinking, wow, that is.
I have an awesome friend who's so she has one of those molds.
Does she? And does she make it?
Yes, but she makes it for neighborhood parties.
Oh, that's awesome.
And she puts the Barbie doll in there.
Does she?
She's done that, though, with fruits and vegetables as well.
Like stacked up fruits and vegetables and then
as
stuck
the Barbie skirt. Yeah. And some of her neighbors have not appreciated that and requested that she not bring it back. Oh. And so she's trying to get creative with other fun things to bring instead.
Oh, that's lame. Why would you say that? Why would you reject something that awesome?
Right? It's so cool.
It is so cool. Okay, so the word cake, it's an English word that has some Nordic roots, and it's basically kaka, K-A-K-A.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But the Egyptians were known to have made kind of these sweetened bread, dessert breads that, were sweetened by honey. So there's not really a time when it was not a bread. Like nobody can pinpoint the time that it kind of transformed from this like flattened bread to a cake.
To the airy thing that we're used to.
Exactly. Okay. So it's interesting because bread has a lot of gluten in it, right? But a cake is very low gluten. You want it to be very spongy and softer than what bread is. And so you basically need something to help elevate it or to create some uniform lightness in.
Yeah, we've talked about cake flour before and how that has less gluten.
Yeah. And then also even with basically what they needed was leavening, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the Romans, they added yeast to leaven their cakes. So they kind of perfected that. And then the Italians came along in the 16th century and added whipped eggs into the batter. But both of those were not super reliable sometimes.
Oh, okay.
And it took a lot of work. Think about beating meringue back in the 16th century.
Oh, geez.
That was all manual, man.
Your arm's going to fall off.
Yeah. But it worked. I mean, it worked to a certain extent to lighten up that basically the bread.
Yeah.
They're basically changing the bread into something a little bit lighter. Now, in the mid 1800s, things change when bicarbonate of soda and baking powder come along, right? We've talked about that before in our leavening episode. Mm-hmm. And then the thing that really changes and puts cake on the map is the availability of the ingredients. So think about it, like flour has not always been that super refined white powder, right? Eggs are not always available because of whatever reason, rationing and that type of thing.
Not everybody had a chicken.
Not everybody had a chicken. We're ones that produced on a regular basis. And sugar was definitely not always available.
Sugar was a luxury.
Yes,
until
definitely.
very recently.
And then your butter, your fat. You could probably get that, but once again, if it was lean times, you were not using butter for a cake. You were using it for other things that you needed.
So what they used, you know?
So they just didn't have cake. I mean, cake was not as popular because of the non-availability of some of these ingredients for a while. And so when they started to become more popular, or the availability of these ingredients because of manufacturing processes or whatever, it starts to become more popular. And the other thing that helps cake come on the scene a little bit more is that dessert became part of the meal. You know, like that's like the nice little bright spot at the end of your meal.
Yeah.
You look forward to cake. And so yeah, there's a lot of cake it finally kind of came onto the scene because of all of those things. So there is actually a lovely book. I need to read more of it. So, but it's called American Cake, and it's by Anne Byrne. And she wrote the history of cakes in America here, because cakes have been around for some time, but she kind of brings up a few cakes that I wanted to touch on. And then I'm going to hit on one last thing.
Oh, okay.
So the chocolate cake, first of all, we talked about how we love the chocolate cake.
Oh, yeah. When I was little, I always requested devil's food.
Yep. So good. So late 1800s, this is the time when Thomas Edison and electricity was considered a scientific era. And there were some cooking schools in Boston and Philadelphia, Fatty Farmer, and they basically focused on a few different things. So they focused on exact measurement. So because it's like very scientific.
Yes.
And then also making healthy foods with a new ingredient that was energy giving.
What?
Chocolate.
Oh, awesome.
Yes. So
I love that they said it was energy giving.
Yes. I think it's energy giving.
Well, I mean, in a sense, we still think that because people who are big into sports, climbers and, distance athletes and hikers and stuff like that usually have chocolate.
Yeah, have some chocolate there.
For that high energy.
So their the first version of the chocolate cake. So these chocolate companies like Baker's Chocolate, they were asking these cooking schools to create a chocolate cake basically, and they would use it sparingly. But their first cake that they came up with was called the mahogany cake.
Oh,
which was very pale in comparison to what we know of as a chocolate cake, right? We know the dark, almost black color, right? But theirs was very pale in comparison. So, but I just thought that was interesting that it was
called mahogany because mahogany, you think it's very dark. I think of it as
it's very dark. But then when they said it's really quite pale in comparison, because they just didn't use that much of the chocolate. Because they were trying to make a healthy food using this chocolate.
Sure, but you couldn't use too much.
But they were also saying, yes, use it sparingly, and that's why.
But also, like back then, desserts weren't nearly as sweet as they are now.
Oh, no.
I mean, I don't know what flipped the switch, but I think it was like more almost in our lifetime or close to it, like 60s, 70s, 80s, where it was like, and now everything's super duper sweet.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Get into that in just a minute. Okay, the other one that I really liked was angel food cake, because I love a good angel food cake during the summer, but it was actually born out of frugality. So the Pennsylvania Dutch are actually from Germany, because I think Deutsch got mixed up, and so they were called the Pennsylvania Dutch. But because they would make noodles with the egg yolk, they had egg whites left over, and they didn't want to waste them. So they created this angel food cake that didn't use any yeast in it.
Oh.
And also kind of a side note, Anne Byrne, she noted that they also didn't want to be associated with using yeast in their cake because during the temperance movement, they...
Oh, yes.
yeast,
okay.
When you warm up, when you apply
heat to yeast. They didn't want it to
yeast,
ferment.
Yeah, they didn't want it to be... It makes alcohol. Everybody knows that. So we don't want to even be associated with a cake that has yeast in it.
The presence of evil.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
so,
okay.
and I don't know if that's how the angel food cake got its name also, but it was definitely, they wanted to make sure that they were not even looking like they were doing something bad, I guess. And then the other one, the cowboy cake. So the reason why it was called the cowboy cake, and it has a couple of other names, but when people were going out west, they couldn't bring chickens, or they didn't have chickens. So they didn't have eggs. Okay. And eggs are it's an ingredient that is usually in a cake and helps with leavening and binding and that type of thing. So, but if you can't take hens, then you don't have eggs and you can't make your cakes. So what they did was they boiled raisins with water until you kind of got this sticky, liquidy mass.
Okay.
And then you would add that into your cake and bake it into your cast iron, because that's what you were bringing when you're crossing the plains and such. And it would add kind of this moisture and sweetness to your cake that didn't have eggs in it. And nowadays people use this as like a vegan cake, because there's no eggs in it. So, so some version of this cowboy cake, or they also call it the war cake.
Yes, I've made a war cake,
Have
but
you?
mine had baking soda and maybe it was baking powder and vinegar.
Oh,
because it wasn't bubbling up, I guess. So it was probably baking powder.
well, both of them can
bubble
have
a
some
little
sort,
bit.
yeah,
but
exactly.
It wasn't as much as when I cleaning, I guess.
Yes.
But it was a lot of oil and vinegar.
And not any eggs,
No
probably.
eggs.
Yeah.
No eggs.
Just because.
But it was really yummy and dense and moist.
Yeah. So there's this, because it was born out of rationing or not being able to bring the ingredients that you wanted, but also being able to make a sweet something while on the road, I guess. Okay. So those are kind of some cakes that I thought that was interesting, but they do talk about a few things that changed the landscape. And one of them are actually cake mixes.
Oh, okay.
Do you ever use cake mixes?
Yeah.
Those box cake mixes?
Okay, what's really funny is that I didn't really know how to cook growing up. My grandmother and my mom kind of tried to teach me, and probably my grandmother more than my mom did. But so I would make some things, but I knew that it was like a really big, huge task to actually make a cake. And so when I went to college and one of my roommates was like, oh, I'm going to make a cake, and she wasn't doing it from a box, I was amazed. And I was like, oh, people actually do that.
Make cakes, not from a cake mix.
Right. I thought only like a bakery did that, really. Or my grandmother, because she was just so ambitious. But I was like,
that's hilarious.
I looked at her like she was crazy, and I was like, you're not doing it from a box. And then I just like sat and watched her.
Because you're like, I'm fascinated.
And I'm sure she thought that I was the biggest weirdo.
That's all good.
Yeah. If you're listening, hi, Heather.
So I think this part is interesting because there has been kind of some urban myths on how cake mixes kind of came about.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think that it's because of the fact that there was a surplus of flour, these mills that would have too much flour in the hand. So they're like, oh yeah, and this was around World War II, after World War II had ended. So they had a lot of extra flour. So they're like, oh, we'll make cake mixes. That is not totally correct, actually.
What?
It actually happened as early as 1930s. And it wasn't because there was an excess of flour, but because there was an excess of molasses.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
The reason why we know this is because in 1930, a Pittsburgh company called P. Duff and Sons, they submitted a patent. Gotta love the patent office because there's stuff that there's. So this invention, and I'm going to read a little bit about what the application said. It said the invention that relates to a dehydrated flour for use in making pastry products and to a process of making the same. And then in the same thing, he talks about how the mix for gingerbread, it's basically for gingerbread, involves creating a powder of wheat flour, molasses, sugar shortening, salt, baking powder, baking soda, powdered whole egg, ginger, and cinnamon. And then what would happen was the home cook would add water and rehydrate it. And they could go on and do that. And so it was like he basically had these cake mixes, or the dry stuff. Each batch would call for about 100 pounds of wheat flour and 100 pounds of molasses. It was because he had too much molasses on his hands. So, and that was in 1930. So it was way earlier than when the war was happening.
Okay. Yeah.
And so after this, he started to tweak it and create other things that were similar to this dehydrated flour mixture. And it depended on the, different materials, but he submitted another patent, U.S. patent number 1,931,892. That was a really long number.
A big patent number.
Yes, exactly. So there is a pamphlet actually that talks about these Duff's mixes, and they weren't all for cake, but it was like for nut bread and bran muffin or fruit cake. And the one that is the most, I think that people are very familiar with, because Duncan Hines makes these.
Yes. We talked about Duncan Hines previously.
Devil's Food and Spice Cake.
Yes.
Like Spice Cake is kind of a funny one to me because I'm like, I feel like that's not super popular, but it's still around. And those mixes really were kind of the beginning of that era. Now, there is another myth that says originally it was just add water, right? And nowadays you add water and generally some eggs and maybe even some oil. It just depends.
Depends on your mix.
Now there's a myth that says that it was not selling very well. These cake mixes were not selling super well back in the 30s because the housewife wasn't feeling like they were very involved in the making of their cakes. So it wasn't until they added the step of like they took out the powdered egg part and said that they had to add eggs before.
Then the sales spiked.
So that's an urban myth actually.
Oh, okay.
Because Mr. Duff, he actually realized that they still have some hesitations with powdered eggs and psychologically like, oh, I don't like powdered eggs. So it just so happened that right when they were like, okay, we have a new breakthrough where you do have to, the home baker adds those fresh eggs in. It totally kind of changed the scene of what we do with cake mixes. And it just happened to coincide when they became more popular again. It didn't really have anything to do with like the whole I want to add eggs in and spikes of sales. It just happened
it's just nobody likes a powdered egg.
Yeah. It was more like it's not because the housewife didn't feel like they were involved in the cake making process. So I just thought that was really funny. So by the end of the 1940s, more than 200 companies were putting out some sort of cake mix. Betty Crocker, Pillsbury. Like that's a ton. Cake mixes. It's a thing.
Wow. No wonder that's what I grew up on.
Yeah. They did eventually I think sales and such kind of flattened out in the 50s. But so the thing that really brought it back onto the scene was the frosting.
Oh.
That prepared that tub of frosting, right?
Yeah.
Because then, so if they were complaining, if this was really a thing, if they were complaining that they were not, housewives were not being involved in the cake making process, this innovation of the tub frosting and then having, like I said, these catalogs and stuff showing you how to make the craziest things with your cakes and the frosting. That's basically what brought the cake mixes back onto the scene. And I was like, yep, that's exactly what my mom, we would have these little catalogs and we would look and see how we could make crazy cakes. And it was pretty awesome. So it makes everybody feel like they're making something from scratch. Like you said, you're very involved in the cake making process, even though you're not measuring out a ton of different things.
No, but you're mixing.
Yeah. And you're putting it together. Yeah. So cakes, that was just a small little chunk of cake there. I think we should do another podcast episode on cake.
I think that's a good idea.
Because cake is delicious.
There's so many traditions around cake too.
Yes. Birthday cakes and wedding cakes and anniversary cakes.
Kinds of holiday cakes.
Yeah. Moon cakes for Chinese New Year and the Yule log, king cake. I mean, there's a lot of things. So I think we will revisit this topic in the future. But yes, cake is our celebratory food because you're saying, hey, I made this for you, even if it came from a cake mix or I bought it from Costco.
Our podcast is brought to you by our awesome and food-loving sponsor, True Aussie Beef and Lamb and the Big Green Egg.
Yay! Okay, you guys, this episode is coming out the day before the Grill on the Green sweepstakes finishes up. And we have been partnering with True Aussie Beef and Lamb. And I've been blown away with the quality of this meat. And we have just enjoyed grilling and smoking. And
it's really good meat.
Yeah,
it's a really fun product to use, the Big Green Egg.
Yes, it is. So if you haven't checked it out, there is a fun little where you can buy Aussie, basically something that an Australian sourced beef or lamb, and I'll put that in the show notes. But go check it out. I think in our neck of the woods, it's Costco or Whole Foods. So,
yep.
And we encourage you to go enter the sweepstakes at grillonthegreen.com.
And just tell them that Hungry Squared referred you, and you can be entered to win a large Big Green Egg.
Yes.
That includes accessories as well.
Oh.
So that's over $1,000 worth of goods there.
It is so nice, you guys. We're so excited to partner with them. So go, and if you haven't entered yet, go now. Okay. Tomorrow's your last day, August 1st, to enter. So get on there.
Get moving.
Grillonthegreen.com.
Let's have a food fight.
Food fight, food fight, food fight, food fight. It's winter.
This is the segment where you can email us with your relationship questions relating to food. You can email us at hungrysquared@gmail.com.
Disclaimer, we are in no way professional relationship experts, but you should totally listen to us anyway. If you need professional help, please seek it out.
Food fight, food fight, food fight. The food fight segment of the show. Here we go.
Winter, do you have this week's question?
I do, and I think we'll both have something to say about this one.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so the question says, "Hi, Sharon and Winter. I'm a newbie to farmers markets, and I'd like to go to one this year in my city. Any tips on going? Yours, early bird gets the worm, question mark."
That's cute.
So how do
Farmers markets.
I love them. And that's a little surprising that this person's never been to a farmer's market, because I feel like they're ubiquitous. They're everywhere.
They are everywhere anymore, but I think it can also be intimidating if you've never gone. People, I think, are used to just going to the grocery store.
Yeah.
And now there are lots of different ways to do that. You can order your groceries online and just pick them up. Amazon now has an Amazon Fresh
Yes.
website where
That's
you
right.
can get them delivered to your door that way. There's different local
Kind of pickup
markets
services.
and dairies that will still do home deliveries.
Yep.
So I think if you've never gone to a farmer's market, I think that could be intimidating.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I can see that, because the ones that I've been to seem rather large and bustly.
I've
Do you
been
know
to
what
a
I'm saying?
mix. I've been to a mix. So I've been to like Pike Place Market in Seattle, which is kind of farmer's market-y,
It's so fun there.
but it's big and bustly.
Yeah.
It is really fun. There's a lot to see. There's a lot to buy and do. I've been to some local ones here and in California, I think in Idaho as well. So some of them have been big, some of them have been small.
Yeah.
But it kind of takes a minute sometimes if you're at a new market to get your bearings.
Yes. So I think for that type of feeling a little lost, go see if they have a website. Because they usually, if at least for the downtown Salt Lake market, for example, they
Yeah.
actually have a pretty decent website that tells you
Who the vendors are, so what kinds of food and produce and different, like they have food trucks there and vendors like that, so you can know kind of what to expect.
Yep.
They have artisans. Some farmers markets are just food. Some are pre-prepared food, like in a food truck or like a chuck wagon type of a thing where you can get like a coffee while you're strolling, or you can get lunch there as well.
Yeah.
Some have artisans, so you can also buy
crafts
and homemade soaps. Sometimes you can buy clothes and jewelry or just stuff for the home as well. So I think that would be really helpful to check it out if yours has a website.
Yeah. And then figure out where you're going to park too. I know that sounds dumb, but
you'll feel better about it.
Yeah.
You will feel better about it if you know exactly where you should be parking.
Yeah.
Because a lot of places are like up in Park City, for instance. So we're just talking about our local markets here. Park City is not that far from my house. It's like 15 miles or something. And it's just right off the freeway. But they close Main Street on Sundays. And so where you would normally park, sometimes you can't. Either it's too busy or maybe it's been blocked off.
Yep.
So just check it out. Check out your parking situation first.
Yeah. And there's also, because farmers markets definitely have a local and a sustainability vibe to them, right? A lot of them will have like a biking option. Like they will have a biking
ours has a bike valet.
Yeah. And it's kind of fun. So just see if you're into that and you're not very far away, that's another option instead of driving. So, or if you can walk over, do that, because everybody wants to shop local and take care of your city and state. So
I would say also bring your own bag.
Yes.
Like a canvas bag or maybe one of those net bags or just a reusable grocery bag.
Yeah.
And something that's easily carried or slung over your shoulder that feels comfortable, because you're going to be doing a bit of walking through all the different booths and stuff like that. And you never know. The thing about the farmer's market that I really like is you never know what you're going to get. Even if you know what types of vendors are there, all throughout the summer and even the fall and winter, there's some places that have a year-round market. That produce and those goods that they're offering are always going to be different depending on what's in season.
Yeah.
Sometimes stuff is kind of heavy to carry.
Yeah.
So I'd also plan for that as well. So if you usually walk or bike, but maybe it's September or October and you bought a pumpkin, how are you going to bring that pumpkin home?
Yeah. You got to do a little planning.
Yeah.
I was also going to mention that in regards to planning your visit, some of those heavier things, then I would say if you want to go look at some of the artisans, or you want to go grab a pastry, like a prepared pastry already, get those first, walk around, kind of do a lay of the land, a brief overview of the lay of the land, and then kind of decide what you want to do. Talk to your farmers too. They will tell you what is amazingly good right now.
Yeah, they will tell you. So ask them what they have and ask them. So a lot of times they might be selling something that you're not familiar with, be it something that maybe you've had before, but you've never prepared it, like maybe some beets, or just something that you're not familiar with at all.
Jicama.
Yeah.
I had jicama for the first time like 3 years ago. What?
Yeah, and you had no idea maybe how to even cut into that.
Yeah.
You'd had no idea how that grew. You're like, oh, that's how Brussels sprouts grow. They're on a stalk.
Yeah, that's really weird, you guys, if you have never seen that before.
So it's kind of cool to talk to the farmers, see what they like, and they can tell you how they're growing things. I think that's really great, especially if you care about organic stuff, or, veganism is very important to you, different types of things like that. But it's really important to know where your food comes from, just in general. Even if you're an omnivore, it's just important to know where your food comes from. So talk to your farmer. They can also give you a lot of recipes and ideas on how to use their food.
Yes.
That they're selling, and ways to prepare it. Like if you don't know how to cut into a jicama, they can show you.
Yeah.
Get to know them and build a relationship with them too. So if you're buying those big pumpkins, say, maybe you could purchase it, leave it at their booth, and they'll hold it for you. And then you can run and get your car, so you don't have to haul it around for like a mile and a half or whatever. But yeah, get to know them. I think that's really helpful.
Yes, I agree. And then I think the other thing is, I have been to a farmer's market or two with a recipe in mind, and that has not served me well sometimes.
Be flexible.
Yeah, that's because the thing is, like, if I have something for pumpkin stew or something, and it's still like June, it's just not good. You're not going to find a pumpkin yet. Right. So just kind of keep that in mind, is maybe not have a recipe and just go there being flexible, because those things that are at the farmer's market are generally right when they're in season. They're the best. And so right now for us in Utah, I think peaches are
are king right now.
So if you're like, you just go find what is the most pretty and wonderful and sweet, or picked at their prime,
and your farmers will tell you. They'll also, so I think at the farmer's market, and the early bird gets the worm. So if you want first choice of everything, go as early as possible.
And that's early sometimes, you guys, like 7:00 in the morning early.
Right. Like you got to make a plan.
Yeah.
Like get yourself some caffeine.
Yep.
And, get going. But sometimes you can catch a really awesome deal if you are the last one there.
Yes. So there's a couple of
So approaches. If you're late, like, your farmer's market closes up around 1 or 2 o'clock, and you go just before they close, like an hour or 30 minutes before they close, they're trying to get rid of stuff.
Yeah.
So they'll give you a good deal if you'll just buy some more stuff.
Yeah.
Some farmers have what's called seconds. So their produce doesn't look as pretty, but it still tastes good.
It still tastes good.
So you could get a discount on that. Some of them will give you a deal if you buy in bulk.
Yeah. You're like, I'm going to make a lot of Brussels sprouts today.
Or a lot of peaches.
Yeah.
And maybe you can share those with a friend.
Yeah.
By the bushel kind of a thing. Some cities, they take the SNAP benefit card, so your food stamps, and that's a really inexpensive way to shop.
Yeah, inexpensive and healthy way to shop, actually. So I think there's a lot of ways. I think just give it a try. You will be surprised. Don't
take some cash, maybe. They'll usually have some ATMs around if they're not taking cards.
Oh, yeah. That I think bring some cash, and
makes it easier.
I think you're going to be surprised at how much you spend. At least that's what I'm always surprised about. I'm like, how did I just drop that much money? It was because there's so many good food artisans. But you load it up and too. Farmers. Yeah.
You load up.
It's fun. It's fun. So we hope you enjoy your farmer's market. Let us know how that goes.
Yeah. Take a nice stroll. Thanks for joining us today for our show. You can find us at hungrysquared.com on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play Music.
Yeah, you guys, thanks for joining us for our show for the last year.
Yeah, that is
Yay.
awesome.
We really appreciate it. We appreciate you guys sharing our show as well and leaving us iTunes reviews or Stitcher reviews, wherever you find our podcast. And then remember, we're giving away 3 cookbooks.
So our first anniversary gift to you is paper, and we are giving away cookbooks. So go to
either Facebook, Instagram, or you can comment on our blog. Just say, this is my, and all you have to do is say, this was my favorite episode. I think one of my favorite episodes was accidental food invention.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was probably one of my favorites. Or pie. I don't know what the deal
Pie
is.
was
That was our
awesome.
first episode, and it's always stuck with me.
One of my favorites was cast iron.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. So. Okay, tell us what your favorite is on all of those platforms, and we will draw out a winner in about a week. So, but thanks, you guys. We'll see you next week on our next episode of Food Nerdery.
Okay, love you. Bye.
Bye.
Hungry squared, yeah, hungry squared.